Sunday, December 21st, 2025. And we about to go into 2026 in a minute. Happy Kwanzaa. And for y'all that's still doing Christmas, what's up? A special edition of Nightmare Fuel, the Black Ophanum Lion TV, because I couldn't come to y'all last night. Actually, little known Black history moments, feeling a little melancholy. So bear with me. I'm going to do something about it. We going black in time, y'all. Pruitt igoe Project, Housing Project, St. Louis, Missouri.
Freestyling with it.
But first, I got this new song, new jam for Snoop Dogg, Captain Cannabis. Somebody reach out to Snoop Dogg and tell him, man, dude is over here popping that shit.
Freestyling with it. Cause I ain't playing with it. You dig? Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
One more time. Here we go.
Go!
Well, let's put it like this. Snoop Double G, Captain Cannabis, raised up red, black, and green, and the Black Power fist. Can you get with this? We ain't new to this, we true to this shit. Puff, puff, pass that shit. The Captain Cannabis. My duty to the cutie, pretty face and big booty. Got the sticky icky.
Hey, hey.
If you're sticking with me.
Hey, hey.
But never try to play me, see? Motherfuckers say I'm crazy. If Peter Piper had a pickled pepper backwood, would he roll it up and do it?
Smoke real good. Hey, hey.
When you light it up.
Hey,
Oh,
hey.
shit. I think I done did it again. Hot damn. Pen keep jumping up in my hand. Know what I'm saying?
Stop playing.
Freestyle, burn real bright. Fuck my spelling, see the light. And get this to Captain Cannabis tonight. Oh, cause the homies in the hood need millions. Giving back to the people, not the
Minions. Hey, hey.
the ones rocking with the stars. One holding on to cold steel bars. Those in the hood with the low riding cars. Now if you didn't know, you better ask somebody.
Hey, hey, hey.
But the real deals don't tell
Nobody.
shorty.
You did.
Fucking man, still best.
Still the best.
Oh, like a black Superman with a kryptonite vest.
Oh, yeah.
But I know I can't just take the belt from Snoop old
Double G.
with the spirit of Tupac coming over me.
Oh.
It's all about what we got, not a fantasy. You see? Spit my shit
With a grit.
but don't spit.
Split your lip.
Trying to roll my shit. Don't even trip. Don't take no sip. Oh God, done did it again. What the fuck?
Know what I'm saying?
If they don't know, they better not ask nobody, cause the real deals don't tell nobody. You
Ask no question, I'll tell you no lie.
check this out.
Nightmare Fuel.
Back, about to light it up.
Hey.
Keep the tracks, fill up
Up them cups.
with the C's and D's.
I mean, see them G's.
What? Every word that I spoke, you know they try to silence today. They know that I'm woke, and I ain't going out that way. They want to keep a brother down, keep my sister and my brother.
Brother broke.
I'm here to shake you, wake you up. Huh.
Fuck the sleep. Stay woke. Nightmare Fuel. I'm your Nightmare Fuel.
Fantasy Black Panther Revolutionary.
me.
Like 607, I'll say,
Stop playing with me.
I'm your
Nightmare fuel.
Stop
Playing with me.
I'm your nightmare fuel. Not taking no prisoners today. Put the signs down. Moving the silence around these clowns. Taking pictures for facial recognition,
y'all.
But I'm coming like a ghost standing tall, fucking
Crawl.
Cause I'm back up
Against the wall. Stop playing with me.
I'm your nightmare fuel. Stop playing with me. I'm your nightmare fuel. Stop playing with me. I'm your nightmare fuel. Check this out. Fight or flight, only one way up. I got red, black, and green flags.
Back your shit up. Hey, hey.
Cause the nuisance on
Black
post.
power.
And watch you take it real fudged.
Fudged up. Hey, stop playing with me.
Just don't get in the way. You know what I'm saying? This ain't a weigh-in. You get left at the weigh-in, looking for a way out.
In my werewolf voice.
Nightmare fuel.
Brand new day for the black man, woman, and child.
I'm your nightmare fuel.
Or will be your nightmare fuel.
Oh, check this out. You get left at the weigh-in, looking for a way out. You know what I'm saying?
Stop playing! Hey, hey, stop playing with me! I'm your nightmare fuel.
With me. Cause something just
Broke!
I'm your nightmare fuel. Keep you
Up all night! Fuck the sleep! Stay woke!
You know what? I try to be nice,
Hey, hey!
but I'm really that
Nigga!
motherfuckers don't
No!
play. Cause we never did.
Figure!
I'm your nightmare fuel. Yeah.
Nightmare fuel.
Stop.
Stop playing with me!
Stop.
Playing with me! Hey, I'm your nightmare
You know
fuel.
why? Something just broke. I'm your nightmare fuel. Keep you up all night. Fuck to sleep, stay woke.
Don't y'all go nowhere.
I'm your
I got
nightmare
some little known black history moments for you tonight.
fuel. I'm your nightmare
Feeling a
fuel.
little melancholy, I'm a little homesick. You dig? I don't care what nobody say about the projects. It's safer there than here.
All real.
Ain't no National Guard run shot over us, boy. They were messing around in our hood.
The lead flying, baby.
You dig?
You don't know, you better not
Ask nobody, cause the real deals ain't gonna tell
The
you.
real deals, don't tell nobody.
Like L.A. Ron,
I'm a nightmare fuel.
shout out Black Power.
Nightmare fuel. What just broke?
Shout out OG
Nightmare
Conte.
fuel.
What up, cuz Lee?
Up all night.
The next Tupac.
Sleep, stay
They
woke.
woke. I'm your nightmare fuel.
Stop playing with me. I'm your nightmare fuel.
What the fuck? Somebody asked me earlier, they say, thought you was up there with those good old boys playing that Beverly Hillbillies music.
Salute to all
Man,
the
y'all don't know me,
ones.
do you? You don't know where I'm from, huh?
They got
It's all good. You dig? Shout out to the People's Champ.
Stay woke.
Black power. All the
The
Panthers.
younger man is not being held back. Admirable, but mistaken. You think darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it. Molded by it.
Truly. Don't know me.
Light until I was already a man by then.
This is an introduction. I'm more like Bane than you know.
Because they belong to me.
I'm the black version of Bane. What? One more and we gonna get into this. Don't go nowhere. Tonight, on Nightmare Fuel, we're going black to the Vaughn Projects, St. Louis, Missouri. Oh shit, I'm gonna do this live for y'all. Watch this. I'm gonna do it live, y'all. Here we go. One more again. Laid back, about to light it up. Kick the track, fill up them cups with the C's and the P's. I mean, see them G's. Huh. Every word that I spoke, you know they try to silence me today. Huh? They know that I'm woke, and I ain't going out that way. They want to keep a brother and my sister down. They want to keep us broke. I'm here to shake you, wake you up. Fuck the sleep, stay woke. I'm your nightmare fuel. Fantasy Black Panther revolutionary. I'm your nightmare fuel. Like 607 Unc say, stop playing with me. Huh? I'm your nightmare fuel. Huh? Stop playing with me. I'm your nightmare fuel. Not taking no prisoners today. Put the signs down. You know we moving in silence. What? Around these clowns. Cause they taking pictures for facial recognition, y'all. Huh? But I'm coming like a ghost. Standing tall. Fuck the crawl. Cause our back's up against the wall. Huh? I'm your nightmare fuel. Fight or flight, only one way out. Up. Got red, black, and green flags backing shit up. Cause a nuisance on our post and watch your day get real fucked up. Huh? I'm your nightmare fuel. Stop playing with me. I'm your nightmare fuel. Just don't get in the way. Know what I'm saying? This ain't a way-in. You get left at the weigh-in looking for a way out. Know what I'm saying? Stop playing with me. I'm your nightmare fuel. Stop playing with me. I'm your nightmare fuel. Dig this. I try to be nice, but I'm really that ninja. Mofos don't want to play, cause they never did figure. Fudge putting the thing on the trigger. Live rent-free in your head. Remember to tell them, Huh? Stop playing with me. I'm your nightmare fuel. I'm your nightmare fuel. Stop playing with me. Something just broke. I'm your nightmare fuel. Keep you up all night. Fuck the sleep. Stay woke. I'm your nightmare fuel. Black lightning in the house, y'all. Love for my people. I'm your nightmare fuel. I'm their nightmare fuel. I'm holding the line for mine. You dig? We ain't going nowhere. And when the smoke clear, you dig, you'll know who the real revolutionaries were. Just don't forget, Black Lightning told y'all to tell them. What? Stop playing with us. We your nightmare fuel. Stop playing with us. We your nightmare fuel. Keep you up all night. Something just broke. I'm your nightmare fuel. Keep you up all night. Fuck the sleep. Stay woke. I'm your nightmare fuel. Without no doubt. Yeshua bless y'all. Black lightning. I'm out.
Not only that, let freedom reign from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom reign from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom reign from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom reign from Lincoln County. When we let it rain from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last,
Free at last!
thank God Almighty.
Hi, I'm Sarah with Gadsden and Culpepper
No,
here
you
to show
ain't
you
gonna
today
do
our
that, Sarah. We ain't gonna let Sarah get in this. Oh, well, I'll tell you what. Y'all know they be trying to slip one in every chance they get. But tonight, we talking about the Pruitt igoe housing project, St. Louis, Missouri.
Back in time to the heartland of America, when St. Louis was on the rise. But beneath its shimmering face lurked a dark secret, a stain on the nation. You see, in the 1950s, St. Louis set out on a grand experiment of urban housing, an ambitious project to resolve their never-ending housing crisis. The solution? The Pruitt igoe housing estate. Although initially, at least, this solution was a beacon of hope, it swiftly became a haunting symbol of failure, one that would stoke the flames of America's greatest divide. So join us as we discover the rise and fall of St. Louis's worst housing project. This is the story of Pruitt igoe. I'm your host, Ryan Socash, and you're watching It's History. Our story starts in St. Louis, Missouri, which at the time was becoming one of the most important cities in the United States. St. Louis was a vital railroad and river terminus, a center for developing automotive traffic, and a site for the first Olympic Games held in the country. Although the city suffered with the rest of the nation through the Great Depression, by the 1950s, it was still growing at the same rate. To elaborate, back in the 50s, St. Louis had 850,000 residents and citizens, and planners expected it to keep growing. Thankfully, the 1949 Housing Act gave cities like St. Louis a chance to expand access to affordable housing across the city. Now, how they got this funding, well, that requires some crucial explanations. For starters, federal assistance funding was secured by identifying areas of high density and low wages, growing populations with less access to new homes, or, for lack of better words, simply identifying neighborhoods as slums. The city and others could identify these neighborhoods for redevelopment and demolition, so they did. Mayors Joseph Durst and later Raymond Tucker wanted to remove these slum districts and replace them with apartments for more affluent and socially valued residents. So yes, this effort was initially intended to be segregated. The documentary film published in 2001, The Pruitt igoe Myth, drew attention to the disturbing undertone of what this urban renewal really was. To mayors and politicians like Durst and Tucker, St. Louis, as well as many other cities across America, particularly in the South and Midwest, had a problem: white flight. This continuous migration northwards of African Americans from the inhumane treatment of segregation of the South caused many white Americans to go west and further north themselves, taking their tax dollars along with them. Anyhow, this depopulation and social exodus was reacted to about as well as you'd expect from most white Americans and regional governments. It's important to note that sites like Pruitt igoe were the rule, not the exception, so let's have a look at how it came to be. The two lead architects of the eventual housing complex were George Helmuth and Minoru Yamasaki. Yamasaki, a Japanese-American architect and engineer, had a special sensitivity to the constant racial discrimination of his time. The son of poor immigrants to Seattle, he personally grew up learning how to deal with it. He told Time magazine, quote, "A word that I had heard repeatedly whenever there would be an incident or slight was shikitagane, which means it can't be helped." And I also don't know how to pronounce that, but you guys will get me in the comment section, won't you? Okay, moving forward. Gifted in mathematics and encouraged by a visit from a relative who recently earned his architecture degree, he enrolled at the University of Washington, paying his way thanks to work at a fish cannery. Then, he graduated with his degree in 1934 and moved to New York for a decade of equally grueling apprenticeships. I'd also point out, and quite astonishingly given his Japanese heritage, that he managed to escape the war period internment camps. Anyhow, he rose to fame by combining modernism and humanism in his architecture for the good of functionalism and the individual human experience. But with Pruitt igoe as his first leading project, that type of fame honestly could not have been predicted. George Francis Helmuth, on the other hand, was much more traditional. He was the son of a prominent architect, George W. Helmuth, and served as a city and infrastructure architect for St. Louis for most of his career. And so it was. These two men, bound by nothing more than a common project, would make one of the biggest housing complexes in the city. How they went about it would decide how generations of St. Louis citizens lived. And with that context, let's go ahead and take a tour of the former Pruitt igoe complex. The project was two different facilities meant for two distinct classes of people. The Pruitt half was named after Wendell Oliver Pruitt, a local man who flew P-47 Jugs and P-51 Mustangs during World War II, primarily flying in the Mediterranean and Italian theaters with the rest of the famous Red Tails. He scored at least 3 kills on German aircraft and was promoted to captain before unfortunately dying in a training accident in April of 1945. The other half was named for Missouri Congressman William L. igoe, who served over 6 years as a representative in Washington, D.C. But if you pay attention to the numbers I just gave you, you might already notice that there was a problem. Anyhow, each of these men was a decent namesake for the housing project, especially Captain Pruitt. Still, they immediately acknowledged through the very naming of this facility that it was destined for segregation by race. with igoe being a third of the buildings and intended for white residents only. Nevertheless, sociologist Elizabeth Birmingham said that the complex was designed to provide all tenants with the three essential joys of urbanism: sun, space, and greenery. A variety of 33 and 11-story apartment blocks were spread out to provide natural sunlight, parks and green spaces, as well as a natural flow of traffic through the neighborhood and city. Yamasaki described the green spaces and ease of movement as, quote, a river of trees, whereas others compared the estate to hospitals, as the environment was sterile and hygienic. So this was imagined to be a place where children and families could relax, play freely, without concerns about crime or traffic. 12,000 tenants were meant to call the 57-acre project home. My favorite description came from David Chipperfield, a renowned British architect, who exclaimed, quote, "The almost brutally spare, unadorned surfaces were to reflect the dissolution of the old hierarchies that made luxurious decoration a demarcator of wealth. And there were some unrealized aspects of the plan that would have made this neighborhood truly special. For example, they did away with the traditional divides and more isolated apartments and high-rises that would allow for neighbors to interact quickly and regularly via large galleries on the third floor. Unfortunately, a lack of funding from investors or the city forced Yamasaki to revise the design for cost cutting. Basically, he was forced to double the density of the buildings and cancel plans for playgrounds, parks, laundromats, grocers, and even public toilets. Apparently, these reductions were pushed from the Helmuth side of the architecture partnership, with Yamasaki recalling, quote, "I tried and fought at every turn for amenities, but was denied by a general apathy from the city and state." What's worse, while it was still under construction, the Supreme Court handed down its verdict on Brown versus the Board of Education, declaring segregation by separate but equal means as the rule of the land. In practice, this forced the igoe neighborhood to be African American, and the combined project's residents would at first be about 98% African American. Bureaucracy and court rulings forced Yamasaki to change his vision completely. The project was no longer a clear message of equality despite class and race. Rather, it was enforcement of segregation. So the Pruitt igoe homes, meant to unite people, became a, quote, structure that deepened pre-existing chasms between African Americans and cultural integrity. The media and other architects had heralded Yamasaki's original version of the buildings as a marvelous innovation of public housing, but how were the real final projects perceived as they were finished in 1956, you might ask? At the start, tenants moving in from the mostly demolished former slum district were pleased, despite the low construction quality caused by insufficient funding and constraints encountered by the Korean War. Former tenant Ruby Russell would later tell a documentary filmmaker, quote, "It was a wonderful place, like a big hotel resort. I'd say with plenty of green grass, trees, shrubbery, and all the works." Jacqueline Williams, another person interviewed, told the film how in their former home, her mother had to sleep on the floor. So when moving into Pruitt igoe, one of the most exciting things was that everyone had a bed. She exclaimed, quote, "It was one of the most exciting things in my life, like another world. Everybody had a bed. My mom had her bed, and I was so happy to see her in a room with a door." In 1957, the facility's occupancy rate was an incredible 91%, but by the following year, it dropped noticeably, as all those who could move to better homes did. Now, this had several factors we'll cover, but while land clearance for large capacity high-rises, new and affordable suburban neighborhoods, and federal highway programs had temporarily created a boom in the city's demand for housing. By the start of the 1960s, the demand naturally tapered off because of migration out of the town and into cheaper family homes. So solutions like Pruitt igoe apartments just weren't necessary anymore, sparking the fatal feedback loop that all administrators and companies feared: the battle between income and expense. As occupancy fell, the average income of tenants also shrank. In a story all too familiar for regular viewers, the signatories for these apartments rapidly became women with multiple children and no spouse. In fact,
Yeah, it's easy like, let's go. Yeah, it's easy like, ooh, so sensational. Wild creatures, I tame them all. We go places you wanna go. I can tell that you know.
Thank you, Pruitt.
Yeah, it's easy like that. Yeah, it's easy like that. Yeah, it's easy like 1, 2, 3.
We're currently being recorded.
They slipped one in on us, y'all.
These are the warmest gloves that I have ever put on. And you're not.
They really trying my patience. Man, about to go Project Buckwalk.
This case, compared to projects previously covered on our channel, it was even worse. You see, the Missouri Welfare Department had included a so-called man-in-the-house rule on any woman who took welfare or government benefits or dependent children. This rule, for whatever reason, kept these women from living with men, even if they were married. They also weren't allowed, inevitably, to have telephones or TV. In other words, tenants were left at the mercy of the system. Candace Borders actually had an interesting essay on this topic, where tenants described how their husbands and fathers had to hide their belongings and themselves in the closet as their spouse and children were forced to lie and tell welfare workers a man did not live in the apartment so that he or the family would not be fined or evicted. Rather than living up to its goal of bringing tenants together as a neighborhood, the system began to make them feel nervous and isolated. Resident Brianna King said it felt like the housing authority was saying, quote, "You're bad. We have to restrain you and curtail what you're doing." It was devoid of humanity. It seemed like more of a prison environment that you had to escape from. Federal law required the housing authority to fund maintenance and general repairs through rent collected from the local tenants. As occupancy fell, so did the regularity and quality of maintenance. Maintenance shortfalls encouraged vandalism, eventually spiraling into violent crime on the open gallery floors and public spaces around the buildings. At first, good oversight and carefully applied funding might have saved the buildings, but as you can probably already tell, that didn't and wouldn't happen. The slow, familiar death spiral continued until finally, in 1965, federally approved aid reached the complex for repairs, upgrades, and a general rejuvenation of the space. This was the first of several similar efforts, but they could have been more effective at stopping the hemorrhaging of people and finances. In 1969, the remaining tenants of not only Pruitt igoe but other St. Louis housing projects went on a 9-month rent strike. To show their frustration, this was the final straw for the project. The housing authority was exhausted economically, administratively, and now financially. At this point, even if extreme amounts of funding could be moved in to improve the site, no one, not even the tenants, would choose to use it for these apartments. The city began to investigate these means of demolition, moving all the tower's residents into just 11 of the 33 blocks, a staggering display of how low residency had fallen. On March the 16th, 1972, 3 vacant buildings were successfully imploded. Seeing that as the most efficient method, the city began methodically erasing the buildings, even as minor and last-minute repairs were made to some of the occupied towers, all the way up to 1973. This process continued all the way up to 1976, at which point the estate had vanished from St. Louis's horizon. These buildings, meant to house more than 12,000 people in a growing St. Louis, were all gone in under 20 years. The end of the Pruitt igoe apartments would be an iconic image for architects and urban planners for decades. The photos of the final buildings coming down in a cloud of smoke, dust, and rubble became more prominent than any other picture of the complex while it was still standing. And even before this happened, the blame was being placed on the victims. The myth, as it was, became that the tenants became the downfall of the apartment buildings. One particularly nasty case of this came from an article from the Washington Post, citing that there was an incompatibility between the high-rise structure and the large poor families who came to inhabit it, only a generation removed from the farm. From the beginning, it was easy to blame the architecture and the people rather than the system and the broader circumstances that the city created and was subject to. Catherine Bristol argued that it was neither the building style nor the people that created the final downfall of the housing project. She attributed the whole situation to, quote, institutionalized economic and racial oppression, whereas many feel that the truth lies somewhere in between. Nevertheless, the accepted narrative was that the tenants caused the downfall until much more recently in academic discussion. Since then, many papers have investigated the problem with multiple angles, approaches, and let's just say writing styles. One of the most compelling pieces is a short article by Timothy J. Fox with a rather interesting and complex historical angle. To explain that, I'd like to tell you another story for a minute before we entirely conclude here. So just stick with me. Let's go back to 1904, when St. Louis hosted the World's Fair on the centennial of the Louisiana Purchase. The fair, intended to welcome visitors from the city and across the country into an artificial, ambiguous past and optimistic future. The buildings across over 1,000 acres of land were from various locations, periods, and architectural styles. But inside the exhibition buildings and great tents, this image disappeared. The fair displayed the latest mining, transportation, and general industry technologies, merging the past and future. The buildings themselves were a lie in a way. The fairground was only allowed to be used for a while. In other words, each building's exterior was built from cheap material known as staff, a mixture of plastic and hemp fibers that would be easily removed at the end of the festival. So what's my point? Well, the entire fair was a lie, meant to sell the image of a future created by a handful of architects and industrialists. The Pruitt igoe homes, also in St. Louis, were similar. However, while the architects attempted to approach it humanely, the aforementioned greater circumstances and budget cuts killed their romantic version of the program. The building's slick exteriors, solid steel and concrete construction, and skipping elevators represented the city's modernity. However, critic Charles Jenks eventually wrote about the complex in two separate papers, reading, quote, "Its purest style, its clean, salubrious hospital metaphor was meant to instill, by good example, corresponding virtues in its inhabitants, and that social idealism had led to social catastrophe." Inside, and at its very conception, it was a tool to beautify and redevelop the city's image, cleaning out the slums not just for the good of the people living there, but because it made the city and government look bad, leading some to feel that the casualties of this affair were ultimately the tenants and the image of modernist architecture. Critics no longer defend the Pruitt igoe homes themselves, nor do its builders and tenants escape. As explained by sociologist Elizabeth Birmingham, quote, "The generally held belief fostered in modern architecture is that technological societies share a common cultural denominator. Each culture retains strong links to its past." And so one way of expressing these connections is through visual traditions, a practice which has been intentionally excluded from modern cities worldwide. The cultural loss is real, and people from all walks of life sense it. Despite the failure of the Pruitt igoe project, its architects would go on to have long and successful careers, especially Yamasaki, who would later project St. Louis's main airport terminal, auditorium, the Pacific Science Center, the New York City World Trade Center, and many other buildings worldwide. So what's my takeaway? Well, I feel the downfall of this project lay in the hands of many, in particular the Housing Authority, which stacked the deck against the residents, as though they were incapable of making fundamental life decisions. Then there's the notion that the concept was rotten and born from a few men's ambition to reshape the city into something cleaner, more modern and affluent, rather than addressing the real problems, just kind of sweeping the mess under the rug and pretending that everything is normal. Whereas for the tenants, some do hold the belief that regardless of your situation, you have to take ownership of your own destiny. But I'd love to know what you all think. Maybe we can reach a conclusion by further discussing this in the comment section below. Anyhow, all that's left today is an urban, empty forest slowly being filled in by new homes and businesses, moving in year after year. Perhaps it's for the best that these towers are gone, but they will never be forgotten. And we'll leave it there for today, but I do hope you'll consider...
Y'all have to excuse me for having him telling y'all about it, but hey, that's the video I found. But he wouldn't have walked around down there in the projects. I'm gonna put it like that. He know nothing about the projects other than what he was told.
Every winter.
You know, he heard about it, but like I said on my song, If you don't know, you better ask somebody. But the real deals don't tell nobody. You dig? So, he just talking out of his head. I wish I could narrate it for y'all, but I'm just going to keep it glowing. He telling his side of the Pruitt igoe. I didn't know it was a Chinese man that ran that. But one thing he did say that was real.
Preparing the river.
One thing he did say that was real. They kept the men out the house. They broke up the family. All for a little. It wasn't even for that little welfare check. It wasn't for them SNAP benefits. It was so we wouldn't get evicted. You dig? And have a place to live. I'm gonna let them go ahead and do their thing. I'm doing my thing. And Black Power, what's up? Black Ophenum Lion TV. Little known Black history moments.
By 1959, work was finally underway, preparing the riverfront for construction of the Gateway Arch. But the decade would also bring the city something that would become a lasting symbol of misjudgment and failure, the Pruitt igoe housing project. And yet it too was the product of the same confidence and spirit of progress.
And we were very proud of those buildings when we built them. And when we saw people moving out of buildings that were rat infested and those families were moving into these new buildings, I was very, very happy for them.
Substandard housing, slums, they've been considered a serious problem at the turn of the century, and now in the age of television and atomic power, there were people who were still using outhouses in the heart of St. Louis, living in buildings without central heat or hot running water. St. Louis's first government housing projects opened during World War II to replace rundown neighborhoods. On the near south side for whites was Clinton Peabody. Carr Square Village was built on the near north side for blacks.
Everyone that we talked to, a lot of people that we talked to were some of the earliest residents. They lived there in the 40s and the 50s when it first was constructed. And they felt that they were moving into a place that was a showplace of St. Louis. Most of the families they described as working families, two-parent families. It didn't have the stigma, I think, that it has today.
In the 1950s, new public housing became a top priority. The biggest project of all was Pruitt igoe on the north side. 33 buildings, each 11 stories tall, segregated by race. Architects praised their modern design, but others worried about concentrating so many poor families into one area. When the buildings were integrated, most of the whites moved out, and many of the poor who were supposed to use this as just the first step out of poverty never got any further. The maintenance and management and crime problems at Pruitt igoe would become so great that 20 years later, housing officials simply gave up.
I was there when Pruitt igoe was still, has had its foundations being poured. You know, and I think I put it in one of my movies, this is the future for St. Louis. Look what we're doing.
No one could pretend that public housing would solve all the problems of people inside. But at least the buildings would not mock their poverty or corrupt their hopes. In their own way, the American people built a revolution and expressed the determination that whatever its income, the next generation would not grow up in a slum.
Pruitt igoe, St. Louis, Missouri. There were 33 11-story buildings that shadowed the city below the Pruitt igoe housing complex, built in 1954 during racial tensions throughout the United States. As the apartments were originally built for middle-class families, they quickly turned into crumbling properties that housed only the poor African-American residents of the city. St. Louis was experiencing rapid population decline during the late 1940s. Middle-class residents moved out and poor residents took over their homes, resulting in slums growing up everywhere. To combat this, the government erected high-rise homes that would house 15,000 residents and eradicate low-lying slums. In St. Louis, the towers were called Poor Man's Penthouse. Instead of eliminating ghettos, they became the city's newest slums. As soon as the Pruitt-igoe towers were built, they began to look like almost empty holes a decade later.
Is gradually being overcome with the aid of a massive outpouring of material, money, and manpower. Housing officials and residents began the job of correcting the major problems. 30 additional carpenters were added to the maintenance crews to board up an estimated 10,000 broken windows, which contributed to the general breakdown of services when temperatures dropped below zero last week. 5 additional plumbers joined the crews working to repair water pipes. Clothing and other household items needed to replace those that were underwater.
R.I.P. Leon Spinks.
Being used as a headquarters for the massive cleanup, doubled as a meeting place this morning for the Pruitt-igoe Coordinating Council.
Now, there are a lot of other groups that want to come in and do something, but we need you to tell us what is most important and what takes priority. I would like to recommend the following. That you need, first of all, to have this area declared as a disaster area and an emergency area. That the second thing, that you work on evacuation, not trying to clean up what's here, but evacuation of the citizens who are here and who cannot make it in the condition that these homes are in today. And the third thing is to work for a permanent solution to this problem which keeps coming up time and time and time again.
Due to accidents caused by architectural defects as well as ongoing crime and vandalism, occupancy dropped dramatically. Rat infestations and faulty electrical wiring made the buildings ripe for muggings. The elevators skipped several floors so that riding time would be minimized, so the floors in between became prime targets for muggings. People urinated in the stairwells and elevators, clothes were stolen from laundry rooms, fighting broke out, trash was thrown out of windows, and women were afraid to move around the buildings alone. By the 1970s, the government decided that the housing project was a failure and began to demolish the buildings on live television.
The notorious Pruitt-igoe project is now 1/3 down. The rest of it should be leveled by the end of this year. We talked about the project, the final demolition stage, with Tom Costello, head of the St. Louis Housing Authority.
The contractor is moving ahead with complete demolition of the entire project.
I assume he's also got to remove all this debris, a lot of it.
That's right. That's part of the contract, and he has to have the ground completely leveled in a park-like area.
So when you get a park-like area, what are you going to do with it? Make a park?
I don't know. That's a good question, and it hasn't been resolved yet. I would hope that there'd be a lot of discussion on this at the community level. Is what is the best use of this land? It'll be 57 acres. It's in a fairly good location, I would think, and perhaps if we use our heads, we could develop it for better use than we did in the past.
No longer will sociologists be able to come through St. Louis and say there's the worst housing project in the nation, right?
That's right, and yet that's a positive thing. I think for once and for all, we ought to get rid of it. It's been an eyesore and a cancer to the city, and I think in that respect, it's positive that we are getting rid of the problem.
Have you studied it and thought about it a long time? Just briefly, what went wrong? Why didn't it work?
Chris, that's always tough to make it oversimplified. The easiest answer I can come up with is housing by itself and of itself does not solve all the social problems of our community, and I think that's the one lesson I've learned out of this.
They trying to mess us over, ain't they? Ain't gonna do that. Ain't gonna let them get away with that. People Show, the People Network. Yeah, give you more what you laid your hands on your radio for. Damn Skippy. So hit the Cash App, $ Black Orphanum #1, and we're gonna keep it moving.
They quickly turned it.
I should give y'all a memoir of a Black Panther. Might just have to. They're gonna do that. They give me time. Shit. Okay, they was quick on the draw on that when they saw me coming.
The slums with something fresh, efficient, and clean. A place where families could flourish. But in less than 2 decades, it devolved into a symbol of failure.
That's what
Its decline was so dramatic that its implosion was broadcast live in 1972, an event many have referred to as the moment modern architecture died. This is the story of Pruitt-Igoe, the housing complex that became the worst housing disaster in U.S. history. But beyond the crumbling walls, broken elevators, and growing piles of trash, there were people, residents who lived in its high-rise towers, raised families, and struggled against overwhelming forces. Hi everyone, Ken here. Welcome to this house. In the mid-20th century, cities across the United States faced a major housing crisis. World War II had ended,
Just
and
like that too, y'all. I'm gonna keep it real. It was just like that. I mean, straight up slums, you know. But a lot of love, though. See, and that's the good part. We had more honor than a lot of people, you know. It was straight up gangster in there, you know. And a lot of no women and children be messed with, you dig? And if you came in there with a, needed a problem, you get that smoke. They're about that smoke. But they kept us safe. They kept us safe. You know, I come in and like, yo, let the little homie by. Yo, get the F out the way, you know? Somebody bother you, let me know. I'll knock their, you know what I'm saying? Hit the big boys, you know, them what you call it, like junkyard dog, you know what I'm saying? Say, come here, little homie, don't be scared. Ain't bet not one mother jumper blink wrong. Big Hank, shout out to Big Hank. Yeah, taught Jersey Joe Walcott how to box in prison. So you know he had our back. Ha, for sure. Shout out to Leon Spinks, rest in power, Big Hank. Even though I don't know for sure. I know, he was like 50 when I met him, so, But he was big homie, the big homie, you know? I ain't seen no rags, I ain't seen no nothing. All I saw was the Panthers. I saw Panthers, I saw gangsters. You dig? I mean, see, real gangsters ain't terrorizing the neighborhood. Real gangsters about that work, you dig? So, don't get it twisted. This is the introduction to the soul, you dig? All right, Black Power. Let's keep it moving. And keeping the fathers out of the homes. Make sure that the family structure just destroyed. So wasn't no deadbeat dads running off on their families, hiding in the damn closets. Say, hey, them people probably coming over, so you're gonna have to get your stuff and go down the hallway to the neighbor house. Stuff like that. Hiding in the closet. You like, oh, where's your husband? Oh, what husband? Yeah, that part. Let's get back to it.
Urban centers like St. Louis were grappling with overcrowding, poverty, and deteriorating infrastructure. Tenement housing was a breeding ground for disease, crime, and hopelessness. City leaders needed a solution, and they found it in public housing, a federally funded effort to provide clean, modern homes to low-income families. The Housing Act of 1949 empowered cities to clear slums and build new, government-subsidized housing.
Let me say something else, y'all. I'm seeing right through the bull S. What I call I forgot. Anyway, the BS. I had another word for it though. I was like, that's pretty cool. But anyway, they lying. Had nothing to do with them saving money. They let the projects go down on purpose. They could have maintained it. They had maintenance men around there, black, that could be in there, no problem. You know what I mean? 99.9% chocolate city. You dig? The real chocolate city. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, they let it go down. They turn it into slums. And then not only did they turn it into slums, since they didn't help the people were like, hey, yo, the police was scared to go in the Pruitt projects. It was like, homies are throwing bricks and bottles out of trash cans, big trash cans, dumping them off the roof on their ass after a while, you know what I'm saying? Because all that putting knee on the neck stuff ain't going to happen around there. But one time before they declared war, and these homies was not playing. So that's why they shut it down. They ain't shut it down because robbery and rape. None of that. None of that. None of it. You know? Maybe a little drug dealing, who knows? But the chances of somebody getting offed in the projects, unless it was a personal beef, wasn't happening. Wasn't nobody stick them up. So, yo, is that Junior under that mask? And say, damn, you know, man, no, never mind. That's how it would go. You know what I'm saying? Shoot, grandmama then be knocking on Junior's mama door. Hey, get him up and say, where's Junior? See, he back in the back room. Get him up here. Yeah, that's how that would have went. Don't get it twisted with them trying to tell you our history. Mine, anyway.
St. Louis seized the opportunity, and the Pruitt-Igoe complex was born. Named after African-American war hero Wendell O. Pruitt and white Congressman William L. Igoe, the project was initially designed as a...
Don't get it twisted. We moved around like gypsies, you know, all over the Midwest, California, back from one end to the other, from the East Coast to the West Coast. Wasn't standing still. I didn't even know when it got tore down.
Segregated complex with one half for black residents and the other half for white residents. However, following the Supreme Court's 1954 decision in Brown versus the Board of Education, the complex was integrated before it officially opened. Pruitt-Igoe consisted of...
Hey, they're long enough, make it tear up, you know? R.I.P. Miss Maddie, you know? Keep it going.
33 11-story high-rise buildings spread across 57 acres. At its peak, it housed more than 10,000 people and over 2,800 apartments. The buildings were designed with sleek, modernist lines, large open spaces, and communal galleries meant to foster social interaction among residents. Yamasaki's design incorporated skip-stop elevators that only stopped on certain floors, forcing residents to use staircases to reach their apartments. The communal galleries were envisioned as a vibrant social space where children could play and neighbors could gather. The building's placement was meant to allow for plenty of natural light and fresh air, in sharp contrast to the dark, overcrowded slums they replaced. At the time, the design was celebrated. The sleek, modernist style reflected the optimism of the era, a belief that architecture could change society, uplift the poor, and create better communities. When the first tenants moved into Pruitt-Igoe in 1954, many were excited. For families who had lived in dilapidated tenements, these apartments were a dream. Though the apartments were small, they were new, clean, and efficient. Kitchens gleamed with modern appliances, and windows framed views of a hopeful future. Ruby Russell, an early resident, called her apartment on the 11th floor a poor man's penthouse. Other residents spoke of the green spaces, the community, and the promise of something better. Families took pride in their homes, cleaning the stairwells, waxing the floors, and planting flowers around the buildings. For a time, it seemed like Pruitt-Igoe might be the answer to St. Louis's housing woes, but cracks began to show soon after the complex opened. The first warning sign was financial. The maintenance of Pruitt-Igoe was supposed to be funded by the tenants' rent, but many of the residents were low income, and when vacancy rates began to rise, there wasn't enough money to keep up with repairs. The skip-stop elevators, designed to reduce congestion, instead became crime hotspots. Stairwells were often dark and isolated, making them dangerous for residents. The communal galleries, intended as social spaces, were soon taken over by gangs, and vandalism became rampant as the buildings started to feel more like traps than homes.
That's why I'm here.
As the complex fell into disrepair, the city's...
They let it fall down now. Hey, but you can go from the rooftop to the basement without no crime, without no sticking nobody up. See, what they talking about when these people go in there that don't live there, you know, trying to investigate something, you know, how they do. Our apartment can ask you a question. Hell no, you know. And they'll be like, oh, this is a crime-ridden building. hockey, or whatever. Man, I heard they had to jump in there. I had to jump in there. It was like crime written. Man, you got to be kidding me. I tell you what, if you wasn't used to going in there, I'd be damned if you gonna go in the stairwell. You might be scared to go in the elevator. Hell, you scared to come in the building and be standing in front of the elevator too long. You might take the stairs just to get out of there. So that's the good part.
But even management faltered.
Yeah,
the St. Louis housing
the truth. Whole truth. Nothing but the truth. So help me God. And they ain't gonna ever pull the wool over my people's eyes while I'm here, you know. Cause see, that's one of those situations right there where, like Martin Luther King said, I don't, lead my people into a burning building. You know what? They trying to say that was a burning building, but it wasn't no burning building. See? Yeah. So let them go ahead and play their little stuff. And while they playing their little stuff, hit the Cash App, $Black, Ophenum, #1. And y'all can also help me by sending stars, but I'd rather have a cup of coffee. Forget them stars. Well, don't forget the stars because that's a little easier for y'all. But if you got Cash App, hey, drop like OG Percy say, a penny or 20, a dub and above. I ain't asking y'all to crash out just to get cash out, and help a brother out before they shut us down. And when they shut me down, they shutting you down. Because ain't nobody going to give it to you real because they have no clue. And better not ask nobody because we don't tell you nothing.
The Louis Housing Authority, which was responsible for the upkeep of the building, was stretched thin and unable to provide adequate maintenance. Elevators broke down, heating systems malfunctioned, and garbage piled up in the hallways. The communal areas, once envisioned as gathering places, became hazardous zones where residents feared to walk.
Just remember, I already told y'all that was a
Muggings,
lie.
burglaries, and assaults were commonplace. The towering high-rises, once symbols of hope, became breeding grounds for violence.
Had matter of fact, Leon Spinks and Michael Spinks in the hallway, and their little brother Cleon Spinks. Shout out to Cleon. So like, who's beating up who? We got Leon Spinks and Michael Spinks standing there ready to beat you up if that's what you need.
Leave, further destabilizing families. Children grew up amid the decay with little hope for the future.
That's bullshit.
They played in hallways littered with garbage and broken glass. Residents frequently complained that maintenance requests were ignored for months, if not years. Some of the buildings were so poorly maintained that in the winter of 1970, a burst sewer pipe flooded the hallways with raw sewage, which froze to people's beds and clothes, slowly thawing out and leaving their belongings destroyed. Teenagers formed gangs for protection, and violence became a way of life. For many residents, walking into their apartment felt like running a gauntlet of danger. The utopian dream that was Pruitt-Igoe had turned into a nightmare of crumbling infrastructure, rampant crime, and hopelessness.
I had no clue what a gang was.
The failure of Pruitt-Igoe was not just a failure of architecture. It was a failure of policy, planning, and politics. The city of St. Louis, like many American cities in the post-war era, was losing its population to the suburbs. By the 1960s, the city had already lost nearly a third of its population. Jobs, particularly manufacturing jobs, were disappearing, and so were the middle-class families that once supported the urban economy. The vacancy rates at Pruitt-Igoe skyrocketed. By the late 1960s, more than two-thirds of the apartments were empty, and the tenants who remained were some of the poorest in the city. And with no funding to repair the decaying buildings, conditions spiraled out of control. The design itself, while initially praised, was not suited to the social and economic realities of the residents. The high-rise towers isolated people, while the communal spaces created opportunities for crime rather than community.
The name of the gang was
the decision to cut landscaping and other features to save money only exacerbated the sense of desolation, leaving the buildings surrounded by dirt with wind blowing staggering amounts of dust into people's homes. Additionally, racial segregation played a significant role in the complex's downfall. While Pruitt-Igoe was legally integrated.
But I had a cousin that had Leon and Michael Spinks shook. He beat up everybody in the neighborhood.
And racial ghetto in the city of St. Louis, already struggling, was ill-equipped to manage the
Keyword
needs
is
of its
beat
poorest
up.
residents.
Well, nobody getting shot.
By
Nobody getting
1971, the
stabbed.
situation at Pruitt Igoe had become so
Bet y'all
dire
can
that the
look up
federal
the
government
stats
decided to demolish the
of
buildings.
how many people got
The first building was brought down in March of 1972, and the implosion was broadcast live on television. Over the next 4 years,
I bet
the
you
remaining
was
buildings were
more
torn down,
police
and by 1976,
inking out
Pruitt
our
Igoe
brothers
was gone.
than each other.
The televised
I bet you
demolition
that.
became an iconic moment in American history, a symbol of the failure of modernist ideals and the limitations of public housing. Critics like Charles Jenks declared it the day modern architecture died. But the collapse of Pruitt Igoe was not just an architectural failure. It was a social disaster that laid bare the deep inequalities in American society.
That's when they built the Bond project. That's going to be next.
Their hopes for a better life shattered by bureaucratic indifference and
TV.
systematic segregation. Today, the site where Pruitt Igoe once stood remains largely undeveloped.
I'm following everybody so that y'all can follow me
Over the years,
and catch this
various plans have
real
been
deal
proposed for the
history.
site, but none have come to fruition quite yet. Trees and
Ain't nobody
overgrown
else gonna
grass
tell
now
you.
cover the land where families once lived, played, and struggled. Pruitt Igoe's story is a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of top-down planning and the limits of architecture in solving complex social problems. But it is also a story of the people who lived there, who tried to make a life for themselves despite the overwhelming odds. In the end, the true tragedy of Pruitt Igoe was not its demolition, but the lost potential of a community that was never given the support it needed to succeed. What are your thoughts on Pruitt Igoe? Do you think a housing complex like this could work with the right policy in place? Or is it best to learn from history and not repeat this mistake? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. And while you're there, hit that subscribe button.
I'm hitting my subscribe button. Look here. You say you got something to say about it? Oh, yeah. For sure. For sure. None of these people was down there, you know? All of them were too young to be down there. They just reading from a teleprompter, and I'm just going from memory, you know? So, you know, don't like to say the myth. Yeah, a lot of myth involved, not meth involved. Let's keep it moving.
Here's a secret tip hackers don't want you to know about.
Yeah, hit Black Lightning's show so that y'all will get the real truth. That's what they don't want you to know.
Broke and the subsequent flow of water turned into ice. Today, as temperatures warmed, the ice thawed and residents continued to battle the resultant mess. At 2311 Dixon, a sewer line is broken, and now raw sewage bubbles out of the ground like a malevolent spring. Temperatures dropping as nightfall, the residents here in Pruitt Igoe will probably be frozen in again. Then tomorrow, should the temperatures warm up, the water will come back. And so it'll go until somebody comes in to remedy the situation.
Pruitt Igoe. It was a development designed with the mission of being a model for other urban housing projects. As time went on, however, Pruitt Igoe failed in that mission. It became an embarrassment to St. Louis and a place of suffering to the people who lived there. The residents of Pruitt Igoe unknowingly and unwillingly participated in a human social experiment as the world watched. And in 20 years, it was all erased as though it never happened. What was Pruitt Igoe? What caused this historic failure? And what lessons can we take from this experiment gone wrong? In the middle of the 20th century, city planners around the United States started to consider how they would best mold their cities into places where people were more likely to establish businesses, live, and spend their money. Pruitt Igoe was born out of this concept. Prior to the construction of this complex, the area started as a development known as DeSoto Carr. The DeSoto Carr development was built in the late 19th century and featured some single-family dwelling units, but many multifamily units that were considered tenements or slums. Many of the residents of DeSoto Carr neighborhood were African American, as is the case of most of the slum neighborhoods that made a ring around the city of St. Louis. DeSoto Carr, as well as St. Louis itself, had become overcrowded, and city officials knew they had to make room for the residents of the city that needed public housing. By 1908, city leaders were targeting DeSoto Carr for reform, citing the lack of services and sanitation in the area. In 1916, restrictive new laws led to the forced segregation of the city, and DeSoto Carr became further overcrowded as the cries for redevelopment became louder.
Yeah, no,
By the end of World War
I can
II,
see the
city
Turner
planner
from
named
down there
Harlan
too.
Bartholomew was responsible for designating a ring of slums around the central business district of St. Louis, which contained DeSoto Car for redevelopment and a massive slum clearance project. Around this time, St. Louis was beginning to expand their highway system. This really helped set the stage for plans for Pruitt-Igoe in motion. In 1951, ground broke for the new Pruitt-Igoe project, officially known as the Wendell O. Pruitt Homes and William Igoe Apartments, which were bounded by Cass on the north, Carr on the south, 20th on the east, and Jefferson on the west.
Like a hotel resort, I'd say. It was like an oasis in the desert. All this newness. I never thought I would live in that kind of a surrounding.
When the plans for Pruitt-Igoe were drawn, magazines met the architecture with critical acclaim and called it a model for the rest of the country. There were 2,700 apartments in the development throughout 33 buildings that were 11 stories each. The price the city paid to develop each unit was equal to the price of a 3-bedroom ranch home at the time. The facilities were modern and many of the residents were proud to live in such a nice place. There were schools, churches, and recreational facilities that were created in and around Pruitt-Igoe. The plans called for Pruitt to be developed for the black residents and Igoe to be for the white residents. But in a short period of time, most of the residents that lived in Pruitt-Igoe were black. The first tenants moved into Pruitt-Igoe in 1954, and occupancy rates began to fall only 4 years later. Pruitt-Igoe was often seen as a dumping ground for people that society did not have any other place for. Not long after the project opened, there was a spike in the crime rate in Pruitt-Igoe and the surrounding neighborhoods, broken glass and trash scattered outside, elevators that did not work, rodent infestation, and things being thrown from windows. Children had little supervision and were often causing damage to the property. People were drinking in the stairwells. These descriptions of life at Pruitt-Igoe help explain how the city wanted credit for making a grand plan in urban redevelopment, but did not actually want to follow through in ensuring the quality of life of the people living in Pruitt-Igoe was impacted in any positive and meaningful way. The people who were forced to live here had no control over the conditions that existed at the development. Having been a model for other urban renewal projects, the world watched as new methods were tested at Pruitt-Igoe, and these methods were usually met with failure. Financial reform was attempted at Pruitt-Igoe, and this led to budget cuts. Budget cuts led to lack of repairs being made, and lack of repairs led to a rent strike. The people who lived there were forced to live with this cycle, and the rest of the nation watched what worked and what didn't work over and over until the development failed.
Out here, fuel isn't always in the tank.
See how they take our stuff and make money off of our stuff? But did they give Pruitt-Igoe residents anything other than slum? You know, that's it. You know, did they even try to clean the hallways from the smell of piss? Of course not. And do they do it here? Do they do it now? In any project in the United States, do they do it now? Stop playing with me. Like, shout out to 607 Unc. I'm going to tag you in this, Unc. Unc from St. Louis. But he too young. Well, I don't know. I ain't going to say how old he is because y'all already know what he already say. Old enough to, I mean, young. He say young enough to F your, you know, what be, and I ain't gonna say it. That I let Unc say it.
This Pruitt-Igoe project is now 1/3 down. The rest of it should be leveled by the end of this year.
Once and for all, we ought to get rid of it. It's been an eyesore and a cancer to the city, and I think in that respect it's positive that we are getting rid of the problem.
Oh, by the way, thanks, Unc.
Along with the social problems,
helping your homies go up.
The rent strike
everybody he touched turned to go.
Financial problems that led to the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
You say people were killed if he's sitting next to him. Hell yeah.
Remaining tenants of the project were moved to 11 of the original 33 buildings, and in that same year,
I may not
3
be
buildings in the middle
rich.
of Pruitt-Igoe were demolished.
I'm damn sure
The last 2,000 tenants moved out of the project by May 1974, just 20
rich
years
and
after the
infamous.
first tenant moved out. The final tenant was named Miss Lillian Towns. She lived at Pruitt-Igoe for 18 years and raised 10 children there. She said that the development was beautiful when she moved in, and that leaving hurts real bad. By 1976,
hey, Unc, I bet ain't nothing but front doors at the content house now, huh? You ain't got no back door.
There is much debate and myth that surrounds the question of why Pruitt-Igoe failed. Many people argue that it was the architecture that caused the disadvantages of Pruitt-Igoe. Others say it was lack of maintenance,
Seem to me
location,
you get back. Seem to me you can get backdoored in the front door. I'm not sure.
doomed Pruitt-Igoe from the start. The buildings are large and tall.
Why they want to turn the building sideways?
Prisoner mentality in the people who had to live there.
Oh man,
Initial plans followed through.
Prisoner mentality of the people who live there. Well, ain't no prisoner mentality.
Architectural problems was central to the.
What we had was freedom.
So was the location. Pruitt-Igoe
See,
was
that
centered
was
around
ours.
public housing areas of St. Louis.
As bad as it was, that belonged to us.
Economic viability of the city's neighborhoods and severely compromised
prisoner mentality. Wait, get off talking about my people like that. You're going to have to give it some commentary.
The old modern architecture that just didn't feel like a home led to the failure of the project.
What? Didn't feel like home? Now how come we say home sweet home on the title if it didn't feel like home?
You simply do not have enough money.
Missing all that love from the hood.
Author Elizabeth Birmingham and many others argue that as the project population was increased, money for landscaping and any services such as gyms, playgrounds, a proposed grocery store, or additional public bathrooms disappeared.
We had playground. There's swings on it. I remember.
Offices were set up to collect rent and administrate the project. Financial problems at the complex.
They just straight up lying.
St. Louis city leaders.
Like ain't nobody here to refutate what they saying.
And if the colored move in and run real estate values down, it's bound to create tension. And you will have, well, I think your aimless mixed marriages and...
How's she gonna tell our story? Like she nervous as hell. I guess they would be. Here, let me tell you what they really feel. Let me tell you what they really feel. A white community? Are they joking? Who they think they lying to? They just said that it was a white community. If you saw a white person in the project, you'd be like, excuse me, officer. You know? Hey, don't lie to my people.
Such as the apathy of white residents of St. Louis and the social indifference to the poverty of
St. Louis in general is 90% black.
Most of the white residents of Pruitt-Igoe left early and turned their backs on the problem of the project once
they left early, all right.
Demographic shifts in the city in St. Louis led to the area being considered unsafe, undesirable, and blighted. Planners argue that Pruitt-Igoe yielded pathological environments of crime, fear, poverty, and despair, furthering the perception of blight and fueling the fire of calls for redevelopment and the ultimate failure of the project.
Man, can I would narrate this, but then I'm going to take y'all to the... Fuck it. Here we go. You know what? All the schools around the Pruitt-Igoe projects, the kids didn't have school buses, walked home from school, you know, walked through the city streets to get to the Pruitt-Igoe projects. And whatever that is, it didn't look nothing like what we had. Oh, yeah, St. Louis University. But let me just put it like this here. They were just scared to come down there, and they had no clue because it was 90% black. You dig? Everybody wore the big hats. We called ourselves the Big Hat Gang back in the day. I was like, hey, all of us wearing wide brim hats. Let's call ourselves the Mad Hatters. You dig? I'm like, man, we the Mad Hatters. You know? So I'm going to tell you like this. When I was like that, man, look at that little boy. Do he look scared? Does he look scared? Come on, give me a break. You know? So, I ain't going to let them talk for us no more. I just want to show the projects, you know? And, what can I tell y'all about it? Okay, Memoirs of a Black Panther. I'm walking home from school, right? We take the woods, right? Take the woods through the... Now, how in the hell they gonna talk about people so scared down there? We walking through the woods. Man, we walking through the woods, get home. And I look down, and I see like a whiskey bottle, and I'm like, Y'all, man, look what I found. You know, you take the top off of it, and one thing we definitely learned back there, you take the top off and you smell it. I was like, damn, that's piss. You know, and throw it off to the side, you know. So that's just one little memoir of Black Panther, because I can't stand them giving the stats on our people like that. Not while I'm sitting here. Prisoner mentality? Please give me a break. We're going to skip him. We're going to go right to the next one. What the hell?
It was a very beautiful place, like a big hotel resort, I'd say.
There you go. There you go. Let the people tell you. Let the people tell you. You know, instead of these people telling you. Bars, like OG Percy said.
These developments are run by the St. Louis Housing Authority. This is a far cry from the crowded, collapsing tenements that many of these people have known. Here in bright new buildings with spacious grounds, they can live.
It was a very beautiful place, like a big hotel resort, I'd say. It was like an oasis in the desert. All this newness. Sister. I never thought I would live in that kind of a surrounding.
What happened?
Well, one day we woke up and it was all gone.
We pulled up with the moving van. I knew at that point that it was hell on earth.
Pruitt Igoe looks like a battleground. Vandalism and neglect have left fear among the remaining occupants.
In the middle 50s, St. Louis thought it had solved its low-cost housing needs, but instead a monster was created.
The experiment had
well, no monster created. They created black lightning. You dig? See, because after walking through the fire, ain't no fear. That's why I say, what? I'm your nightmare fuel.
Forget that it is no different than the city that surrounded it. What happened to St. Louis was tragic, but that's simply not how we've told the story.
That's right. Tell it from the people.
Always fighting against this terrible riptide of destruction in the midst of an economy that was dying.
The strong, tightly knit communities and families in which I grew up had begun to shatter, and it wasn't there. And it was one of the most tragic things I've seen.
It seems to me that we were being penalized for being poor.
For being black.
Caused so much anger.
Let's put it where it's really at.
Persons that don't have a decent place to stay are willing to take these tiny chances. While we live, we're taking chances.
This is it. This is out of control, and we are no longer going to put up with it. We're not going to tolerate this anymore.
I said, as tenants, we've got to draw a line and say no more. No more.
This one a little more real here, y'all. I can go with this one. It's so real, I don't think I can watch it. That one's real. But you know, like I say, they always got to cash in on our stuff. So send me some stars. A cup of coffee in the morning.
Urban planning when it was built in the mid-1950s.
But the Pruitt Igoe high-rise apartments became...
Man, I ain't gonna let them talk for us no more. Rags to riches. You dig? And not even riches, you know, just rags to better rags, you know? Better let them talk.
There was so much hope when the 33 buildings that made up the Pruitt Igoe apartments were drawn by a famous architect in the 1950s. But in real life, the complex at Jefferson and Cass on the near north side was a public housing failure almost from the start. Over the next 16 years, the primarily African-American families living in the buildings faced...
Police got scared to come down there, y'all.
And vandalism.
That's what happened.
Pruitt Igoe is still standing there, and those policemen are afraid to go in there. And
that's what I'm talking about.
1960s,
back that up. Wait a minute, hold up. Back that up. Exactly what I said. Police was scared to go down there, so forget what they saying. Listen to me.
On the near north side, was a public housing failure almost from the start. Over the next 16 years, the primarily African-American families living in the buildings faced daily confrontations with crime and vandalism.
The fact is that Pruitt igoe is still standing there, and those policemen are afraid to go in there, and they don't give a damn.
By the late 1960s, many in St. Louis began calling for the buildings to be torn down. Then, more heartbreak in December of 1970 when the body of a missing 8-year-old girl was found in an abandoned building on the property. Still, there was some support for spending more money to fix the complex.
Pruitt igoe is a mistake, and we ought to recognize it as such. And if we have any money available, it should be for the purpose of tearing Pruitt igoe down and building houses on a scattered site basis without concentrating large numbers of people from low economic backgrounds in an area such as the Pruitt igoe complex.
There you go, one of them hand-picked Negroes, like Malcolm X said. You know, he gon' be that's one of them hand-picked Negroes that they picked to speak for us, to say tear it down, so the people ain't got nowhere to go. Yeah, that make a lot of sense.
April 21st and June 9th, 1972.
What they did was replaced it with the Vaughn Project.
Would follow over the
Keep
next
it
3 years.
real.
The site was finally cleared in 1976. And today, the former Pruitt igoe site is now across the street from the new home of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. That, of course, is under construction. All right, when we look back in history.
When the temperatures dropped below freezing earlier this week, water lines in several of the Pruitt igoe apartment buildings broke and the subsequent flow of water turned into ice. Today, as temperatures warmed, the ice thawed and residents continued to battle the resultant mess. At 2311 Dixon, a sewer line is broken, and now raw sewage bubbles out of the ground like a malevolent spring. In the building itself, residents and maintenance crews are working to clean up the mess. Elmer Hammond, chairman of the Human Development Corporation Neighborhood Advisory Council, has tried for 3 days to get city and housing authority officials to help remedy the plight.
Well, I have talked with Mr. Meeker. I've talked with Boyd Wilson of Housing, asked him about this here situation for the last 2 days. And Mr. Meeker called me and said he'd talk with...
He's in the mayor's office.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And he said he'd called Mr. Klein, and Mr. Klein was supposed to send someone in, and no one ever showed.
There you go.
The only
somebody that lived there.
alleviation of this problem that I have received thus far has been from HDC, from Mr. Cahill.
What sort of assistance did you get from the Human Development Corporation, Mr. Cahill?
Well, through the petty cash that I discussed with Mr. Cahill, he sent out and bought me 3 electric heaters and were sent down to 2107 Cass for us to distribute to these families that had no heat in their buildings on O'Fallon.
In addition to the water, how many families are without heat at this point?
Well, I would say right now approximately 40 or 50 people right now. And it's possible that it will go higher than that before the day is gone.
What's the likelihood that you're going to be able to remedy this?
Well, the only thing I can do now is try to get a hold to the housing authority people and some of the city officials and see if we can get these people out of this building immediately. They cannot stay in there over the night with these children.
With the temperatures dropping as nightfall, the residents here in Pruitt igoe will probably be frozen in again. Then tomorrow, should the temperatures warm up, the water will come back. And so it'll go until somebody comes in to remedy the situation.
Doesn't that prove that they didn't give a damn
if
we died down there?
The disaster
they
that
wanted
fell on
us to
Pruitt
die
igoe and most of the other public housing units in St. Louis during the past several days
my people are straight up survivors.
Is being overcome with the aid of a massive outpouring of material, money, and manpower.
You know what they say? What don't kill you make you strong as hell.
30 additional carpenters were added to the maintenance crews to board up an estimated 10,000 broken windows, which contributed to the general breakdown of services when temperatures dropped below zero last week. 5 additional plumbers joined the crews working to repair water pipes. Clothing and other household items needed to replace those that were underwater and ice in the apartments continued to flow into the community center. The center, being used as a headquarters for the massive cleanup, doubled as a meeting place this morning for the Pruitt igoe Coordinating Council.
Now, there are a lot of other groups that want to come in and do something, but we need you to tell us what is most important and what takes priority. I would like to recommend the following. That you need, first of all, to have this area declared as a disaster area and an emergency area. that the second thing that you work on evacuation, not trying to clean up what's here, but evacuation of the citizens who are here and who cannot make it in the condition that these homes are in today. And the third thing is to work for a permanent solution to this problem which keeps coming up time and time and time again.
The residents were particularly high in their praise of the members of the Black Nationalist Party and the Black United Front for their help through the past several days. Some said the disaster was beneficial because it united the tenants and many dissident black groups in a common cause.
Yeah.
After the meeting, volunteers, including white fraternity members from the University of Missouri at Rolla,
shout out to Blizzard to God,
began a door-to-door canvass to determine what else is needed. William Bud Shawalker, Director of Housing, and others who have been coordinating the effort, believe the situation is gradually returning to order.
Well, as of this morning, of course, we do have heat, we do have power, we have some of the amenities of decent living, we have additional maintenance force on hand, we have plumbers.
Why they gotta make money off our stuff?
Today of correcting.
That's what I want to know.
Which have created the abominable conditions.
Give them the right to make money off us.
In the past few days.
The question comes to mind, though, are you going to be able to prevent this sort of thing in the future?
With the necessary funds to provide the necessary maintenance force and supplies, this will not happen in the future.
Pruitt igoe was the most dramatic incident of disaster. However, you do have similar.
When I was growing up in the ghetto, it's a song my mom used to sing to me. If I don't rise in the morning,
you're probably talking on a time schedule basis, perhaps a week to 10 days.
Outside one of the buildings,
I remember those.
everything's alright.
I remember those.
It says, make Pruitt igoe number 1. That undoubtedly reflects the feeling of many of the residents who live here.
Yeah, that ain't no slave mentality. That ain't no prisoner mentality. Say, get out of here with that.
Suffered through broken pipelines and sub-zero temperatures. Make Pruitt igoe number 1.
If it was that bad, we wouldn't have missed it. Huh? It was it. Man, I tell you what, they tore it down. Because they wanted our people to suffer. Damn it. I ain't no happy slave. I ain't no happy slave. I am a black revolutionary. What I tell you, Black Panthers. What?
Yes. This is the ghetto, y'all. Showing up now. I'm gonna put my hat on.
Up you mighty race. I remember that building. I remember that. I walk past that every day. Damn, look like Madden. Miss Madden. We waving the RBG. Not that. Yeah. We had the red, black, and green. Can I take y'all for a ride? We go back in time real quick. Donny Hathaway, the ghetto. And yours truly, Black Ophenham Lion. see how they do us? Y'all see how they do us? Huh? Or how they did us? Still doing us today. Ain't nothing changed but the goddamn day. See, we might have changed our names and we might have changed our minds. We stayed holding the line. For sure, for sure. Shout out to the homies. Shout out to the gangsters that kept us safe down there. That was some real revolutionary shit. See, real men back then. See that Panther, y'all? That's how we carried it. You dig? So why they talking about gangs? We had Panthers rolling through the neighborhood, protecting things. You see that Panther right there, y'all? Feeding the people. Look at that. Feeding the people. Huh? Gateway Arch.
This ruling class plays us down the middle against each other. How old are you? 17.
What's it like to live in St. Louis? You like living here?
All right. Yeah.
There's definitely going out against progress. There's definitely going out against progress for supporting overt white racism. We're going to move to the There's definitely going out against progress for tying up the Metropolitan Police Department.
Kroger's grocery store.
To watch them and the white racists and them other towns and them other people that go in there.
In our opinion, this is warfare is really a symbol of the critical conditions that exist in terms of housing for poor people in the city of St. Louis.
We don't really care what they think or say. Because we know for real. Oh man, Memoirs of a Black Panther. The riverboats down there, the Admiral, and they had the riverboats, right, where they was playing good music and everything. And here come my pop out of Chicago, you know, a bunch of cocktail lounges down there, you know, come to check on the family and everything. And that was before I was even in the world. He down there on the riverboats, and he saw this little act. He saw an act down there, right? And he said, hey, I'm taking y'all to Chicago and put you in my nightclub, right? Guess who that was? Ike and Tina Turner.
Louis Blues, he compiled it. He had a guitar player who lived here in St. Louis by the name of Guy Williams, and they were lifelong friends. And Guy Williams brought out of Mississippi a little tune known as the Jogo Blues. And from this Mississippi tune, Mr. Handy put into his St. Louis Blues.
High top on the building. Black Power, Ashton. Power to the people.
St. Louis
Louis isn't any different. We have the basic problems that every major city has. We have the problems of the minorities. We have the problems of a contracting tax base. We have the problems of delivering health service. We have the problems of dilapidated houses that has to be rebuilt. So we have the same problems that every other city has to a greater or lesser degree.
I see the same problems existing here in St. Louis for blacks as exist across this country. Primarily, they're problems that are based on the racial mentality of the majority of people who live in the area.
Shout out to Bill Clay.
I speak of the white community and the community with the influence and power to make the decisions that affect the lives of black people. There seems to be a general attitude in this country among whites now that blacks have made too much progress. So we find ourselves fighting a holding kind of fight where we seem to feel as if we've been victorious if we can just keep them from taking back the rights that we've gained over the past 10 or 12 years.
Appreciate you.
The quality of black life in St. Louis today is a partial reflection of the history of blacks in that city. Black Enterprise magazine says, quote, St. Louis is an enigma, a 20th century city with a mentality still rooted in the Missouri Compromise, end quote. Still standing is the old courthouse, once an auctioning house for black slaves.
How about that?
Of the Dred Scott decision.
What?
An act making the free black man, Dred Scott, a slave once he entered
You hear that, Truth Bay? Hey, you really don't know me. See, we lived it, you know? That was the first thing I read about was Dred Scott. Don't get it twisted. Thinking that we don't know? Don't ever think that we don't know. Don't ever get it twisted that we don't know.
Great characters about whom much music has been written.
Our people are brilliant.
Black people who lived in St. Louis in the early 1900s. Judge Nathan Young, who testified in a court case for the woman, Frankie, has done volumes of research on the history and culture of black St. Louis.
St. Louis is one of the old cities of this country. It is now 208 years old. Goes back to 1764.
Tell it!
And I think if we do some digging in the early history of St. Louis, there's a legend that says that St. Louis was founded by 30 men in a boat and a 14-year-old boy by the name of Shoto. They landed on the 15th day of February in 1764.
These 30 men were black men?
Well, that's my point. Nobody has told who these men were, and I claim that some of them were black men. Why? Because this was French territory, and out of Haiti, Santo Domingo at that time, there had been a revolution, and many of the people had come into Louisiana, New Orleans, and some came up the river. So the early history of St. Louis is
Black Power, Biko!
With black people.
I don't see you in
and
there.
It has been sadly
I know you'll be watching.
Almost forgotten.
Later.
I would like to claim for St. Louis and New Orleans
another bad black revolutionary
as the #1 city to study
bad in the
civil
best
rights
way
in America.
Rich and infamous.
Well, because we go back so deep into history. And the very beginning of the Great Louisiana Territory purchase. And St. Louis was the capital of the Louisiana Territory. In 1803, this vast number of states, 18 states later on, this vast territory was bought from France for $15 million. And St. Louis was the upper capital. And here we had a large number of free black citizens. In in New Orleans and in St. Louis. And the treaty that changed Louisiana territory to American territory provided that all citizens thereof should be treated with equality. But when the Americans took over, they did not want to treat the black free citizens. They wanted them to be ousted. And as a matter of fact, the first law they made that all free blacks, and they use the word mulattoes and blacks, shall be driven out of the territory. So the key to our whole civil rights history is the free Negroes who appreciated freedom and did something about it. And the first demonstration in civil rights was right here in St. Louis in 1819, when a small group of whites and the free Negroes demonstrated against the new law of Missouri to drive them out or either reduce them to slaves. Now that is the beginning of your civil rights fight in America. At that time, Chicago was a cow pasture. So the Missouri Compromise has never been correctly taught. Things have been hidden about it that should be told. The Missouri Compromise was to get rid of these free Negroes.
St. Louis has a history also of black mythology. What about the legend of Stagger Lee and the devil?
Stagger Lee is a half mythological character, and he's half man. He was the first bad black man in America. He came on with Jesse James and the younger brothers. Stagger Lee was a bad man, and he loved to gamble. And in his gambling, he didn't always win. So one night after a big loss down on Market Street in St. Louis, he went out in the wet night, and he was so downcast that he didn't know what to do. And he got to an old German cemetery, Piker Cemetery. And as he wandered out there, and his coat was up around his neck, and he didn't know what to do, up jumped the devil. And he had a conversation with Stagger Lee. He said, "Stack, what's your trouble?" He said, "I lose all the time. You want to win?" They made a deal. And the deal was that as long as Stack would wear a special brand of Stetson hat, he would always be lucky and he would win.
That's why we wore them wide brim hats,
Stack
boy.
was to give his life when he died. Put his life in pawn to the devil.
Things went well for Bad Stagger Lee for 10 long years, until the devil got into a man named Billy Lyons and made him steal the lucky Stetson hat. Stagger Lee took a gun and shot him down.
They had a trial here in St. Louis, and they sentenced Stack to 75 years. Sent him up to Jeff City. Now I want to point out two things to you. First thing is, the devil was defeated because Stack shot a black man, killed a black man. If he had killed a white man, he would have been hanged. But he killed a black man, they simply gave him some time.
See there? See how they feel about us, y'all? Tell us how you really
Sprawled
feel.
across 57 acres on the predominantly black north side of St. Louis are the remains of a public housing complex known as Pruitt igoe, which was built at a cost of $33 million in federal funds in 1956. Since then, most of Pruitt igoe's tenants, the majority of whom were black, have left because of high rent, high crime rates, and the overwhelming density of population compacted into the area. Although the cost of building Pruitt igoe has not been fully paid as yet, today, 16 years after its completion, the area resembles a small ghost town.
Pruitt igoe, which is less than 15 years old, when it was built, had some 10,000 people. Today, it has less than 500 families. There were some people who said that when Pruitt Igoe was built, other cities should do likewise, but I think what we have here is an example of what should not be done when it comes to housing poor people. In 1969, when we had 10,000 people living in Pruitt Igoe, there was a rent strike because people were saying that we can no longer pay 70% of our income for rent.
Reverend Buck Jones heads a self-help housing organization known as Operation Live.
Many of the people who lived here would move, but they did. And I think what happened was many of the families accumulated their escrow money and they simply moved into other slums. And therefore what we see now is a place where people once lived.
Well, I think that Pruitt Igoe is perhaps the most tragic mistake that this country has ever made in terms of public housing. And my position from the beginning has been that Pruitt Igoe should be leveled to the ground, that it should be destroyed.
Today we have a plan that we've been working with Secretary Romney in demolishing a portion of the area and decompacting the area to bring in high-rise only for the elderly citizens and the low-rise for families with children, to open up recreational areas, to open up playground areas, to bring back commercial establishments, to bring back a department so that they could patrol themselves and that it would become safe.
See, we patrol ourselves.
And I think that Pruitt Igoe will again be an outstanding place in this community.
I think it's impossible to rehabilitate Pruitt Igoe. Now they're in the process now of tearing down some of the buildings and spending another $50 million in taxpayers' money.
Hey, he knew they wasn't gonna do it for us.
See,
that just keeping it real. He just
refurbish Pruitt Igoe.
He said they ain't gonna do nothing.
In my opinion, will not work.
See,
and I think that if Pruitt Igoe is ever going to be successful, and we're going to have to change the name of it, and I recommend that we change the name to Richard M. Nixon.
What?
And then I think that the federal government will come in and do something about the
Nah, we ain't gonna listen to you no more after that. If he said Malcolm X, if he said Huey P. Newton, if he said Eldridge Cleaver, if he had said Marcus Garvey, if he had said, damn it, Black Lightning, then we could have went with it. But other than that, no.
Windows,
thank you, but no.
And I cannot go back. Personally, on about 3 weeks ago, I went to bed about 8 o'clock at night. Waking up about 5 minutes to 5, my air conditioner and television was missing out of the house. They had taken the air conditioner out of my kitchen window and a small television set off my refrigerator. I called the police in regard to this.
They ain't
I never
coming.
heard anything else.
They ain't coming.
This place I found open. I told Reverend Jones if I found a place open, I would move into it. This place, the back door window was broke out. Stuck my hand in and unlocked the door and kept all my stuff in here. And each time they come and move me back out and I move me back in.
The average black person who lives in this area really believes in their heart that the reason that they're not making repairs and filling the vacant apartments is that they're just trying to squeeze blacks out of the inner city.
In our opinion, Mrs. Walker is really a symbol of the critical conditions that exist in terms of housing for poor people in the city of St. Louis.
Some of St. Louis's poor blacks have taken another route to secure better housing. Mackler Shepard heads the Jeff Vanderloo organization, which has coordinated the necessary financing to rehabilitate some homes and build new ones.
The participants believe they were receiving treatment, unaware that they were part of a secret experiment. 600 poor, illiterate African-American sharecroppers were recruited with promises of medical care. Only 399 actually had the disease, but none were told their true diagnosis. The participants believe they were receiving treatment, unaware that they were part of a secret experiment. The men received meals, basic assistance, and funeral insurance as incentives, but not the cure. Even after penicillin was discovered as an effective treatment in 1947, the study continued until 1972. Victims included infected wives and children born with congenital syphilis. The case became a symbol of institutional racism and medical abuse.
They're trying to kill us for a while, y'all.
Bill Clinton issued a formal apology.
One thing though, if they kill off the black folks, they won't have nobody to maintain nothing, because they can't do nothing.
Afterwards, relatives of inmates and concerned citizens demonstrated for inmate rights.
The disturbance in the jail was about the prisoners had grievances about the cold food, about not having a towel and a rag, face rag to wash with, and about the visiting, about how the law is working here, about the judges over in the court, and about the warden in the city jail. I was inside the city jail for 4 months. Since I've been out, I've been fighting for the prisoners up in the jail. I sit up under this tree out here for 6 days and 6 nights, protesting for the prisoners that's still in the jail.
John Bass supervises the city jail.
Well, the population at the city jail here, we have a range of, I'd say, about 85% of the population are minority group members. The population of the city of St. Louis, we think it's something like about a 50-50 population. So it's a disproportionate number of blacks in the institution compared to our total population. I would have to concur that the inmate population here is typical of populations in ghettos throughout America. I feel that we have the same responsibility to this population as the population that is in the open community that got out of subversive violence.
What we're doing right now is we're doing a reconnaissance, searching for some Wonder Bread or Hostess trucks in the neighborhood. And what we plan to do is to let them lead us to the stores that they are still putting the bread in. We're boycotting all Wonder Bread and Hostess product for fair and equal employment for blacks. We plan to visit a couple of other stores that we know that is still carrying the product. And we will go in and ask the merchant.
Like I said, Black Panthers was rocking that. So let them lie to y'all after I told you the truth. And hear the confirmation. That's confirmation. Like Ali said, I ain't gonna lie to my people and lead them astray. Make movies, marry blind. They get shot and go to jail and still gonna be a black revolutionary.
Action taken there at Pruitt supermarket was to sensitize that particular store, making them aware of the fact that, as far as we're concerned, we're holding them just as much as responsible for stocking this bread, knowing that we are boycotting the product.
Black Panther Party for self-defense.
Overt white racism. There's definitely a boycott against Kroger for tying up the Metropolitan Police Department.
Wonder Bread officials say that of 650 employees in St. Louis, 200 or 30% are black. They claim minority employment covers all job categories. The plant's program of hiring, training, and upgrading of minority workers, they argue, has been underway for more than 10 years.
Hey, check this out. In a city that's like 90% black, why is it only 30-20% working at those places?
Paying jobs. And I think the rate of unemployment for blacks is even higher than 1 out of 4. And I know in terms of youth unemployment, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 42%. There's a great deal of reluctance on the part of the people in Washington to make the employers in the St. Louis area comply with the laws of this land. And until we get that kind of enforcement, I don't think that blacks are going to be able to get equal employment or even jobs in any measurable amounts.
In 1960s, in reviewing all of the federal programs and the condition of the black community, it was obvious that we were not solving the problems that took place in the 60s. We were winding up with unemployment. After a number of years of working with various different programs, we were winding up still with a poor school system, with poor housing, and so on. So the question is, we had to think in terms of how does the community develop its own resources? Because when we say economic development, we're really talking about bringing all of the funds,
develop and defend black economic power. Hit the Cash App, $ black, open them #1.
Hospitals, schools, housing.
Follow me, and I'll set you free.
The community needs.
What is the picture for blacks in the
free your mind? Free your mind.
Receive any golden boys.
Take the shackles off your mind first.
It's frankly bleak.
So we can get somewhere with this.
In media who stand up.
Stop dragging each other down so we can get somewhere with this. See a brother trying to get up, push him to the top, y'all.
And many times, black people in media are not either allowed to.
Your presence here is definitely appreciated.
I'll give you an example of what I did. St. Louis is the 5th most segregated city in America. In the next 10 years, we will be more black than white. During that same period of time, the city fathers in this city plan to spend $97.8 million for crime control.
How about
Many
that?
black people think that means that. During the same period, they will spend $1 million for civil rights. That is a very scary thing in the city of St. Louis that affects black people. And yet to get black reporters and black people in media to talk about this.
They work for them people.
Almost impossible.
Yeah, because they work for them people.
Or either not allowed to do their jobs in St. Louis.
That's right.
There's a great amount of that.
Although the first black civil rights demonstration was held in this city over 150 years ago, blacks have been unable to make significant gains since then. Some black St. Louis residents feel the best way of effecting a change for the better is through the creation of alternatives to existing institutions. One important area where this is happening is in education. The St. Louis African Free School, based on the alternative free school idea, operates out of a small one-room basement in St. Peter's AME Church. 20 students attend 5 classes a week in Swahili, history, science, and mathematics. Everything taught at the African Free School is based on the premise that in youth lies the future of black people.
All right, brothers and sisters, this morning we're going through our lesson in Swahili. And you recall that Swahili is one word from an African language that means coast. So Swahili means coast. Let me hear you say that. Swahili means coast. Now, does anybody know what the coast is? Sister Tanya?
The line between the water and the land.
The line between the water and the land. All right, let's say that together. Coast means the line between the water and the land. Red.
Black. Red, black, and green.
In vain. Black. It's for our faces. Jolly we must do. Green. It's for you. And no idea. Sisi watu weusi. Watu wazuri. Pamoja. Tutashinda. Pamoja. Tutashinda. We are black. Beautiful people. Together. We will win. Together. We will win.
Saiga, 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 Saiga. What time is nation time? What time is nation time? What's gonna happen? Let's go change, change. What's gonna happen? Let's go change, change.
It's going down, y'all. Yeah. Loving it. Yeah. I wasn't liking it for a minute. When they start putting their point of views on our things, nah, I wasn't digging that. I was digging it when they bring it to the people, though. See, we always gonna keep it right where it's supposed to be. Hell yeah. Ha ha. So, hope y'all loving it. But we gotta make a change.
10,000 broken windows, which contributed to the general break.
We got to make a change. That's what I'm talking about.
This fight ain't over.
Yeah, I knew they gonna see how they try to monopolize on. They didn't give a damn about the people, you know. Shoot, but now they want to monopolize on it. Isn't that amazing? You know, anybody remember welfare cheese? A big block of cheese looked like it's about the size of that Wonder Bread that the Panther was throwing into the basket. Like the size of the Wonder Bread. You know what I'm saying? A big old chunk of welfare cheese. That's how we had to eat. Huh. Okay. It's all good.
As long as I proceed to civilize the uncivilized, with wisdom to the groove from the wise. I guess I like to verbalize a vocal back and moving blackwards. This Asiatic black man is a dog spelled backwards. The maker, the
like
owner,
power, civilization, Abdul Hakim, infinite
styles, making sure this travel 23 million miles.
Black power, state of emergency, and it's been like that for a while.
Got my own quick money in the pan for the rest of the week. Now I'm eating at a soup can. He has a home, drives his caddy to town. Has my whole earth believing that it's coming from the ground. Slain to those who fought for what was right. Slain to those who fell victim to the fight. A drug controlled substance contained in a vial. Said about a devil as he looks and he smiles. Good at the game of technology, but I have knowledge of myself. You're not fooling me. You see, the answer to me is black unity, unification to help all bad situation. I wrote this on a day with new power.
Appreciate y'all.
Being born to myself. I won't diss the next brother to repay. That's not my trade. It's just a planet is designed by the colored man. Now I'm
each one, teach one. Unity is the only way. See, they couldn't stop us. You dig? So what they try to do is they try to convince y'all that they did. But I'm here to tell you, all they did was tore down the building. And before they try to tell y'all about the gangs and all that, what did y'all see? What did you see? Saw Black Panthers. You saw the red, the black, and the green. See, the red is for the blood that we shed. Black is for the skin that we have. And green is for the land that we were stolen from. You know, they stole us, they sold us, and now they owe us reparations. Yeah.
The solution, knowledge of self, to better myself, cause I know myself that we can live much better than this. Nothing's changed, it's just another sequel. The devil's still causing trouble amongst the righteous people. Drugs in our community, that ain't right. Can't even get a job, that ain't right. Poisoning our baby, that ain't right. Lying who is God, that ain't right. Well, here's some food for thought, many fought for the sport, and the black man still comes up short.
What?
It's time to motivate, build and elevate, blind, deaf and dumb, we gotta change their mind state. So dip, diver, civilizer 85er, gotta let them know the devil's a conniver. This is the plan.
Kanava Analia. What? Shout out Black Joe. What's up, yo? Werewolf, what's happening? What up, cuz?
The God is in here, so move on, black man, move on. You gotta move on, black man, move on.
Now that's black powerful all day. Like I said,
St. Louis, we have a division. 95% of South St. Louis is white. Yeah, 95% North St. Louis is black. And this ruling class plays us down the middle against each other.
How old are you?
17.
What's it like to live in St. Louis? You like living here?
It's all right. Yes. I ain't never lived no place else.
There's definitely a boycott against Kroger. There's definitely a boycott against Kroger for support overt white racism. There's definitely a boycott against Kroger for tying up the Metropolitan Police Department.
Panthers ran St. Louis, y'all. Don't let them make y'all think anything else.
Go in there.
In our opinion, Mrs. Walker is really a symbol. A symbol.
Yeah, of course she would be, with tears in her eyes. Probably in an abusive relationship. Ain't nothing to laugh about, but she ain't no... She's not, and I repeat, not what St. Louis Project. St. Louis Project wasn't about that. I'm going to just put it like that. So let's end this with Captain Cannabis. So I can lift my spirits a bit. Take it from the top. Take it from the top. Hope y'all digging this like I'm digging this. So, you know, this is what's up, you know. So when they paint a pretty picture, paint a perfect picture this.
Freestyling with it.
Here we go.
I ain't playing with it.
And I'm about to get up out of here, y'all. Y'all can hit the stars, or even hit the $ black open up #1 to help a brother out.
Snoop Double G, Captain Cannabis. These are red, black, and green. And the black power fist. Can you get with this? We ain't new to this, we
true to this shit.
Puff, puff, pass that shit.
Hey,
the Captain Cannabis. My dude to the cutie, pretty face and big booty. Got the sticky icky.
Hey, if you stick it with me. Haha.
But never try to play me, see? Motherfucker say I'm crazy. If Peter Piper had a pickle pepper backwood, would he roll it up?
Hey, smoke real good. Hey, when you light it up.
Oh shit, I think I done did it again. Hot damn, pen keep jumping up in my hands. Know what I'm saying? Oh,
stop
playing. Burn real bright. Fuck my spelling, see the light. And get this to Captain Cannabis tonight. Oh, cause the homies in the hood need millions.
Say what?
Giving back to the people, not the
minions. Oh,
the ones rocking with the stars, one holding on to cold steel bars. Those in the hood with the low riding cars.
What up, cuz?
Now, if you didn't know, you better
ask somebody. What?
But the real deals don't tell nobody. Shorty,
I'm the fucking man of steel, and I'm still the best. Hey,
fucking man, still best. Oh,
the suntan Superman with the kryptonite vest.
Kryptonite vest.
What? Shout out to my people, y'all.
But I know I can't just take the belt from Snoop Double G.
Shout out to all my loved ones.
Coming over me.
Double R, what's up, Black Power, brother? coming in on the tail end of things, but you can always watch the
It's my shit with a grit.
Hey, hey, hey.
Don't spit.
Split your lip. Trying to spit my shit.
Trying to roll my shit. Don't even trip.
Hey,
Don't
hey.
take no sip.
Uh-oh.
God. Done did it again. What the fuck?
Uh-oh.
If they don't know, they better not ask nobody, cause the real deal don't tell nobody.
Yeah, how about that? Ain't that right, Double R?
What you talking about?
We don't know what you're talking about.
Check this out.
So if you don't know, you better not ask nobody. Cause the real deals don't tell nobody. Let's take that from the top.
They don't know, they better
This
not ask
Black
nobody,
Lightning
cause the real
original.
deal don't tell nobody.
This is my theme song for Nightmare Fuel. And we gonna kick this. Yeah.
Check this out. Laid back. About to light it up. Keep the tracks. Fill up the cups. For the C's and P's. I mean
see them G's. What up, cuz?
Every word that I spoke. You know they try to silence today. They know that I'm woke. Hey,
going out that way.
You wanna keep a brother down. Keep my sister
and my brother broke.
I'm here to shake you, wake you up.
Oh.
Huh. Fuck the sleep.
Stay woke. Nightmare Fuel.
I'm your nightmare fuel. Fantasy Black Panther revolutionary. Like 607 on say,
stop playing with me. Shout out to 607 on. Thanks for coming on the show, brother.
I'm your nightmare fuel.